Yara South Asia, part of Norway-based global MNC Yara International, has been transforming India's agriculture since 2011 with its products like chemicals and biofertilizers tailored for crops like rice, potato and bananas. Its Babrala plant in Uttar Pradesh, acquired in 2018, boosts local production while sustainability and crop diversification drive its mission. But with China's export curbs in place tightening global supplies, how is Yara tackling these global shocks to boost supplies for Indian farmers? We have with us Mr. Sanjiv Kanwar, Managing Director, Yara South Asia. Thank you for joining with PTI.
Thank you for having me with you.
Mr. Sanjiv, China's fertilizer export curbs briefly eased in August 2025, but tightening again from October are straining India's 80% reliance on specialty fertilizers. How are these disruptions impacting Yara South Asia's operations?
That's an interesting and very live question, if I may say that, because supply chain disruptions are serious and they can have a severe impact on the businesses. And if you look at China's role in India's specialty fertilizer business, the reality is that almost about 70 to 80% of our specialty fertilizers for India as such, they come from China. And it's logical for China to export into India because it's just about 3 to 5 days sailing time. So if you order today, within the next 15 to 20 days, you are assured that the product will arrive. And now that's not happening as easily as it was happening for the last so many years, which has led to India's dependency increasing on China's specialty fertilizer supplies. But I think what has happened in the last 3-4 years, we should not forget that we have been getting used to the supply chain shocks. Like you had the COVID in 2020, 2021, which saw supply chain getting disrupted. Then you had the Russian-Ukraine unfortunate war happening in the European markets, which has again disrupted the supply chain, led to severe price increases. And now we have this with China holding back the supplies of specialty fertilizers into India and also maybe to the rest of the world in the coming months. So we are, I would say, as an industry and also as a player, have started to identify where are those sources from where we can get additional supplies if the push comes to a shove. And of course, when the push comes to a shove, that means that your supply chain gets longer. For example, let's say the specialty fertilizers, it's not only that China is the only source, you also have other sources, other countries. We ourselves bring in a lot of product from Europe. So it is a matter of getting sharper on your planning, identifying the sources that are available that can step in when China is stepping out, and ensuring that you have the right supplies in time. We have managed to do pretty well as of now. I would say that we have not really had severe lack of supplies, barring 1 or 2 of products. Other than that, we have been able to meet the requirements of the Indian farmers through our alternate sources, which we managed to arrange. And I think in that, I would say the last 3-5 years of supply chain disruptions have come a long way in building that resilience within us and the industry too. So I think pretty comfortable at the moment, I would say that.
With China's stop-start export policies creating uncertainty, how is Yara ensuring a stable supply of soluble fertilizers for Indian farmers without raising prices?
Yeah, that's a trick question, but I think I would say that the prices have not really been moved up in the past 6 months. Pretty stable prices that we have had, despite the fact that all of us in the industry, including Yara India, we have had to change our sources of supplies. For example, when it comes to calcium nitrate, which is 150,000 ton, 50% of specialty fertilizers into India are calcium nitrate. And we at Yara, we have our own calcium nitrate production unit in Norway. So we are able to increase our supplies from our own plants and bring it into India. Then when it comes to the other sources of water soluble, we looked at the Middle Eastern sources of supplies who have stepped in with the supplies of products such as SOPs and potassium nitrates, water soluble fertilizers. So we have not really seen an increase in prices. We have certainly seen an increase in working capital deployment, because time taken to bring product from the European and the Middle Eastern markets is slightly longer than what you would invariably get from China. But other than that, I think the prices have been pretty stable in India.
Mr. Sanjiv, Yara South Asia depends heavily on imported soluble fertilizers. How much do you import annually and from which countries?
I would say almost I think 100% of our imports, 100% of water soluble fertilizer imports are happening. We are dependent on that. And I would say that's almost about 120, 130,000 tons of imports that we do annually in India are all imported. And coming from different origins, like we don't want to depend just on one source. So we have some Middle Eastern sources, some Chinese sources, and a major chunk of our sources from our own home base, that is Norway. Almost about 70% of our imports are coming from Norway. So we are pretty much secure in terms of our supply chain.
So how much has been the import so far in the current year?
I think we are close to about 120,000 tons imports have happened this year.
And that is January
to September. Okay. And we will do another about 15 to 20,000 tons in the coming 3 months.
So will it be higher than last year?
It will be higher than last year.
How
yes.
much?
I think about 25%.
Okay.
Yes, because the market is we need to keep in mind that the specialty fertilizer market is going up, because if you look at your own diet, you're eating more of fruits and vegetables as compared to the earlier generation. So the farmers are getting more inclined towards fruits and vegetables, not only because it's good to grow, but it's also because it's more profitable. I think about 12% of India's arable land is under horticulture, gives 24% of agriculture's GVA. And that's where the money lies for the farmers, and that's where we have to step in and help them.
Which alternative markets are you urgently exploring to prevent a supply crisis amid these restrictions?
Generally, we're looking at the Middle Eastern sources to step in, and we have been fairly successful in that. We're not really suffering from a lack of supplies, barring one particular product, which I think is not only an India issue, but it is also a global issue. That's monoammonium phosphate, which is also finding its way into the EV market. Like EV markets are booming, as we all know. So MAP is being used in production of EV batteries, as we understand, and that is causing a supply challenge for all of us. So,
are you investing in proprietary technology or securing deals with countries like Belgium or Morocco to safeguard your supply chain against disruptions like China's export curbs?
No, not at all, because as I mentioned, 70% of our supplies are coming from our own production within the Yara system. And for balance 30% that we have long-term arrangements from various producers across the world. So we are able to secure ourselves, yeah.
Yara India produces urea locally at Barbala in Uttar Pradesh, but relies on imports for specialty fertilizers. How are you managing geopolitical risk and subsidy pressures to keep specialty supplies affordable?
Okay, let's say if we handle the urea side of it first, that's an investment that we made in 2018, January 2018, when we took over the Barbala plant owned by the Tata Chemicals earlier. We are in fact the first multinational to have invested in this highly subsidized urea sector in India. And I would be very honest that it has been a pretty good learning experience. But one must take a step back and say, yeah, the government of India has been very supportive of Indian agriculture and has made sure that there's enough budgetary support to ensure that the subsidy bill is paid out in time. When we stepped in to take over this plant, there was a bit of concern internally that the subsidy payout cycle is going to be longer. It's going to be quite long, as was the experience with many of the industry players. But I think since 2019, we have not experienced any subsidy delays. So the working capital issues have not really cropped up, which is really fantastic. And when it comes to the specialty fertilizers, we are largely dependent on our own production basis in Norway, from where we bring in about 70% of our specialty fertilizers. And balance, as I said, we have long-term arrangements and long-term relationships with leading quality players based out of the Middle East and some in Taiwan. So we are able to meet the requirements of the Indian farmers.
During last financial year, Yara India reported 5,342 crore in revenue with a strong monsoon focus for the current year. What are your revenue growth targets for this financial year, and how are you preparing to mitigate disruptions from weather variability or geopolitical risk?
Let's say when it comes to the turnover, I would say a large element of the turnover is based on the urea business, which in turn depends on the subsidy levels that are paid out. So it's very difficult for me to say that yeah, we will increase our turnover by 10% and 20%, but I think when it comes to the specialty fertilizers, that is more of a non-subsidized. That's what we control ourselves. That's what that's where the real ambitions are. And I think the specialty fertilizer business this year should grow about 15 to 7%. That's our expectation. We are in line with that, and that's what I would focus at the moment. Yeah.
Yara's global revenue dropped to 13.93 billion in 2024, but India is a bright spot with a 8 to 9 growth target to triple business by 2026. Given market challenges and cost-cutting measures, how realistic is this ambition, and what specific steps are you taking to achieve it?
Yes, it's an ambitious plan that we have to grow at the pace that we want to. But also, I would say that it's fairly realistic. I'm not saying that because I'm part of the plan, part of the people who develop this plan. But if you really look at where the Indian market is actually growing, it's the horticulture segment. Like you have, and that's one of the reasons why it's growing is because the farmer is also having a better revenue and more quicker revenue, because these are shorter duration crops. So in a span of 90 days, he harvests his field about 5 to 8 times, depending on the crop is growing, and it's a cash flow market. He's always generating some cash on a regular basis, and depending on his returns for that particular cycle, he's ready to invest more money on the nutrition crop, on the nutrition elements, so that he improves the productivity. So the farmer is ready to invest his earnings into the crop because he sees a better return there. And that is where we are hedging our bets that we will be part of this journey. We want to help the farmers improve their farm productivity, improve their farm incomes, and when they grow, we also grow along with them. That's the way it is. And for that, we are reaching out to the farmers in a phygital mode, which is doing almost 40 to 50,000 farmer meetings. We do almost about 4 to 5,000 demonstrations to show the strength of the Yara crop program. It's a balanced crop program so that the farmer's soil is protected, his need for water application goes down to some extent, not fully of course, and also since the crop is healthier, his need to apply protection against viruses, that also comes down. So overall, we add a lot of value to the farmers, and that's where we see we can certainly grow. And this year is a testimony that despite having drought and then now we're having excessive rains, we are maintaining a good growth path.
Despite Yara's strong 652 million EBITDA in second quarter of 2025, production capacity in India has not scaled significantly. Why has this been the case, and what concrete expansion plans are in place to reduce reliance on imports and strengthen local supply chains?
I think when we look at the urea plant, we don't have any plans for expanding or putting in another line or doubling capacity, but we did invest significantly, about 25 to 30 million US about a year and a half back, when we did an ATR annual turnaround and after we finished the annual turnaround, our production capacity has gone about 40 to 50,000 tons annually. So, and more important than that is that it's also seen a reduction in our carbon CO2 emissions by about 70,000 tons on an annual basis. But per se, we don't have any plans at this point of time to double or increase our capacity substantially in India at this point of time.
Mr. Sanjiv, the Bulb Lab plant produces 1.3 million tons of urea efficiently. Are you planning to expand it or build new facilities to reduce import dependence as India's fertilizer demand grows?
At this point of time, we don't have any concrete plans to expand our urea production capacity in India.
India's fertilizer subsidy and regulatory framework is evolving rapidly. How is Yara navigating these changes to ensure affordable and timely product availability for Indian farmers, particularly in remote rural areas?
I think when it comes to the urea side of it, the government has been very proactive. Rather, not only urea, even for the DAPs, the MOPs, the NPKs that we have, the government has been extremely proactive in announcing or fixing the subsidy rates, which ensure that retail prices of fertilizers don't go up. I mean, if you look at the history, and in the last 10 or 12 years, urea prices at the retail farmer level have not gone up. and also when it comes to making product available at the farm, in the remote areas, the way the fertilizer distribution is structured, that the government of India, central government of India, is actually allocating product that you have to sell X tons to X market, and you also get the freight subsidy for that. So we basically work in very close tandem with the government of India and follow their advice, where to sell, where to supply, what to supply in a time-bound manner, and that's a contribution. Yeah.
Mr. Sanjiv, Yara International is a global leader in soluble fertilizers, yet India heavily relies on imports. Could you outline Yara's strategy to expand domestic production and reduce these vulnerabilities, particularly by leveraging the Make in India initiative for localized manufacturing and R&D?
The way we operate generally is that when we set up a plant, we look at the global market, in the sense that can we supply globally from there. For example, we have our production unit in Norway, from where we are bringing about 70% of our fertilizers. That does not supply only India, but also to the rest of the world. Same position we have set up a water soluble fertilizer plant in China, from where we are actually looking to bring water soluble fertilizers into India, but due to this geopolitical issues, we are not able to do that. So we are not really looked at India as a source for production of water soluble fertilizers, but we certainly have in the back of our mind some ideas that we could certainly look at India in the coming years, not immediate, maybe depending on the regulatory framework as it exists, to see if India can be a potential position. We could build a plant where we could produce micronutrients not only for India but also for the global markets. But that's just a thought and a plan, nothing concrete, because it depends on the regulatory system that exists here, which at the moment we're not able to introduce new products into India very quickly. It takes almost 4 to 5 years to get a new fertilizer product registered. So that is kind of a roadblock that we challenge with at this point of time. Yeah.
Yara South Asia, a vital arm of global giant Yara International, is battling China's export curbs and import challenges head-on to keep fertilizer flowing for Indian farmers. From partnerships to local production, the fight for resilience is clear. But will it be enough to secure India's agriculture future? Join us next time for more.
Thank you so much for having me over. Thank you.